there you are. So free, full of hope and promise. You got choices to make. What are you going to do with your life? What career are you going to choose? Where are you going to go to college? But there's a boatload of money involved. Do you know any of this? No, who cares? Let's just go to college. Let's talk about student loan debt and how it's going to ruin your life. So I'm Dan.
And I'm Nick, folks.
We're old friends dissecting one topic at a time. People, technology, media, we've got it all covered.
Each discussion here is a deep dive into our unique perspective. The taboo, forbidden subjects, they're all on the chopping block, baby. We don't pander to popular opinion. We might even get a little bit dirty.
Warning, this podcast may contain mature language and sexual content and is for infotainment purposes only.
So join us. Have a good time.
Open up your ear holes, because we're going to fondle your follicles. Alright, so there's Nick.
Oh, wow. Hey, Dan.
Oh, and there's another.
Susanna, how crazy is that? She just showed up.
Was
this an invitation?
She's to your right, so that...
There she is. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How did I forget that?
Yeah.
Well, welcome. Hey, Susanna Harris of Susanna L Harris fame, Twitter,
hugely
thing.
Popular, thousands.
Popular in circles.
Yeah, it's like 10 o'clock at night over here, so I was able to book you in.
Oh,
Thank you.
Oh
my God,
you slipped
very
right
lucky.
in.
Very lucky.
Slipped right in the sheets.
Well, we're glad to have you, and I'm glad to have Dan over there because today I think it's finally time we take the gloves off, folks. Talking about student loans. Hey, loan company, guess what? Had sex with your mom. Hey, student loan company, guess what? I'm not paying another friggin' dime. Quote me, okay? I made like 300 straight payments. I'm out. Audi 5000. So with the rest of America and most of the millennials I've been reading about, we're not paying anymore. It's over. We solved the debt crisis.
I don't know if you were honest or not, whether you actually paid them off finally.
No, I did not pay them off finally. That's a joke. It's ridiculous.
How much longer?
I'm only 33. I actually have my paperwork with me. I printed it for everybody. We can have a little laugh later.
Okay.
We're not there yet.
You want to run through the process of the beginning of the loan?
Yeah, just real quick. I just
college?
wanted to put out the big statement because it's been in the news a lot lately. 44.7 million borrowers.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big number, but not like everybody in the world, right? Or in the United States.
That's
Collective debt, 1.5. That was a real
five
call.
children.
1.56 trillion. Yeah.
Whoa!
Isn't that a lot?
Yeah.
It's a friggin' lot. Like that's enough to build a wall around the entire country.
Or not.
So, yeah, that's what I wanted. All right. So how does student debt happen? Like why even have student debt, Dan? I know you wanted to jump in there and just say, let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
So why don't you?
So you're in high school and there are career paths. I guess there are paths that cost money, more money than others. Mm-hmm. Like you can go to a trade school or, just start working. Most people with the American Dream, they go off and go to college. They pick a major and they decide if that's what they want to do for, I don't know, for the rest of their life, but for the foreseeable future until they pay their loans off. Because it should be a good, wise choice that pays off in the end.
Should be.
So I chose a major that was based on just creating stuff. So I became an engineer. But that was the only reason that I ever went to college. That was the only thought in my head. So for Nick,
I chose biology because I was really good at it.
You started off bio?
Yeah, I was a bio major for a year and a half.
Man.
I was straight B's, baby. But it really was boring and tedious, and I didn't want to do it for the rest of my life.
Oh.
Titration reports made me want to throw up. Just sitting in labs when it was like, I know the result. It's endothermic. And we'd be like, well, here are the goggles. Here's this. Here's the material. You got to check out the material list. We got to do this. We got to check them out. You're going to have your partner. You're going to check out your goggles, make sure this is here. We're going to fill out the report beforehand. You're going to weigh them. You're going to weigh them after the fact. And oftentimes it didn't add up exactly the way you wanted it to. And they were like, just fudge the numbers. You know what it was, and I'd be like, okay, this is great. And then it'd be like, write a report. It has to have this in the, what do they call it? They break it down like a thesis.
The
Introduction. Yeah. Oh my God. That was the worst writing I've ever experienced in my life.
Procedural.
It was so bad. Yeah. There's a whole slew.
Mm-hmm.
So I switched to something that would make me a little more money. Journalism, English. I'm going to be a newspaper writer next year.
Yeah. So we have art.
So ironically,
like that more?
I did. Dude, I love literature. I love reading. I love breaking down film. I love breaking down themes. I love like higher level thought. It's just the applications in the real world.
He's a real good thinker.
Quite.
Give him a lot of money.
I'm a real
for
good
that.
thinker. There's not a lot of money in that. He thinks outside the box. What does he do? Well, he thinks outside the box. And what does he do?
Can I see his resume?
Well, it's outside the box.
There's nothing on it. Why is that?
Yeah, there's nothing on it.
It's outside the box.
Yes, it is. So anyway, no, I switched to English. I did. Paid the same for it, and still paying for it.
So Susanna, why did you pick microbiology, or did you start with that?
I did. I'm like one of the weird people that I
love lab reports.
No, everyone hates it. That's what's so funny. You're like, ugh, I hated endothermic reaction. I was like, yeah, me fucking too. Like, no one likes that. No biologist likes that.
Good point.
Yeah, otherwise you'd be a chemist. But
yeah, I hated chemistry. I really did hate chemistry.
I was terrible. I'm terrible at chemistry.
I was bad at chemistry.
I'm really good at biochemistry because it like has an application. You know, you see it and it's not just like random shapes and they're like, well, technically that shape is supposed to be tilted slightly that way. It's more of like, if the shape is like the wrong way, then all the babies die. And you're like, neat. Okay. I got that. That's in my head now.
That's an application.
Yeah, I know that now. Yeah, that was a tangent. So no, my junior year of high school, I was taking an AP bio class, and we had like 2 days on microbiology. It was about bacteria and viruses, and I just saw it. I was like, that is the coolest shit I've ever seen. I want to get to learn about that. And so I chose a school. I was really pissed about my school, to be honest, which is where I'm wearing it now.
Oh, property of Iowa? Is that what it says?
Oh, shirt show.
Property of Iowa.
Shirt show.
Oh.
Look at that.
I don't care.
Oh yeah, you got the water bear.
I have to use it because I just don't get to wear it out in public very often.
Anyway, I know haters gonna hate from the Muppets.
Yeah.
Anyone under 30 doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Peace.
Sorry. Yeah. So I actually chose the University of Iowa because I wanted to have a program that had a good microbiology program, a decent study abroad program, and that I could like partially pay for. My family had me pay for half of my college, but I was able to pay for things out of things like fellowships or scholarships. That they said whatever you go to college for, you got to be able to pay for it somehow, or half of it. And so I wanted to go to a bunch of different colleges, and what ended up happening is that the best college in terms of just the science and the Spanish was University of Iowa, which was 2 hours away from where I lived, and I desperately wanted to leave Iowa, but I didn't. I decided to stay there, and I loved it. Like it was 2 hours away, 2.5 hours away from home.
Perfect.
That's plenty. You're away unless you have a true helicopter parent. You're gone. You don't need to come back. And it was really great. But I was really glad because at the time, University of Iowa, I think our tuition was only about $7,000 a year. So,
nice.
Yeah.
So it was a financial decision.
Not state school.
It's a super public school. People come out of state from Illinois because it's cheaper to be out of state in Iowa.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So, so in state, but then my brother, we obviously grew up in the same house. He went to a private college in Iowa just because he would get a soccer scholarship, but he left with money, much more student loans. But he's also just got permission, whatever. He's getting his CPA license, and so he has like a real job, and he's going to be just fine. We don't need to worry about him. But,
so financially aware. I don't think I was. I knew the amount. I think my school was like $26,000, but they gave me a scholarship for like $8,000, and then I had like financial aid, some portion of that, and my parents promised to pay all of it until a certain point where they said, "Nah, we're not going to do that anymore. Here you go." And I was like, "Wow, that's great, thanks." So they gave me the remainder of the loans at the end, which wasn't
What did they
that
do?
large.
Sign for it and then make you sign for it?
Well, I think as a student, I don't know that I signed for it, but I must have. Like, I think they were in my name, but they co-signed, which is the normal path. I think most people do that. They take a loan out for themselves, or they have their parents co-sign.
Parents help you co-sign for it. Yeah.
Or there's a third option where I think they're like called plus loans, where like your parent plus loan can be your parent paying for it, but with a loan, so that like your name isn't attached to it. But there's consequences that they can give the loan back to you at a certain point. So like force it on your name, which is kind of weird.
It is not great.
Yeah.
It's also weird for a 17-year-old or 18-year-old to take on like
that decision.
Like $60,000. I mean, that's
how much was yours per year, Nick?
18 or 20 or something like that.
And then did you get a scholarship?
No, I went to University of Delaware. It was the only school I didn't get a scholarship to because I thought it was the prettiest school.
Oh.
It was. It's the most beautiful campus I've ever been to. And I knew that if I bought items there, I wouldn't have to pay sales tax. So
that saved a lot of money in the end.
Yeah. In the end, it worked out. So my parents helped pay for my first semester, and then the rest was on me. So I think was it 15 grand a semester? I don't know. All the numbers start running together.
A year?
I was out of state as well.
15 grand a year?
Maybe start at 15 grand a year. That makes more sense.
What did you have when you ended? See, like that's the crazy thing is that's the most money we spent, and we have no idea. We're unsure. You would think that like I know exactly how much my car costs, and it is a fraction of college.
The other funny thing is, by the time I got to junior year, I just took out more money than classes were because I needed rent because I was living off campus. So I took out just extra money because I was like, you need it for meal plan, this, and I did work, but it wouldn't have covered housing, etc. And I actually don't know. I printed my loans. Excitingly enough, this is gonna be one of those episodes where I end up depressed by it.
You look so sad
and mad.
It's making me happy.
I was trying to get
I don't know why.
You guys are enjoying this. That's fine.
I hear you shuffling papers like you're reading like a eulogy or something. I mean, like your own eulogy.
It's like all these pages with all these numbers on it.
How are as a kid, you don't know like what interest means. You don't know how it accrues, if it's compounding. Like you don't understand
interest. Check out that girl over there. I'm interested, buddy. It's 8.5%. Sorry, are you sure you're aware? I just flicked down my shades. I was like, sign me up. I'm 18. Like I thought it was pretty cool at the time, but interest is not that cool.
The piece that I did not realize, and I don't even know. I don't know. I mean, I know how we didn't realize. There's no way to understand what the hell is going on.
Right. You can at that age anyway. But
even, like, I had parents looking into it, and they were like, I think this is your best option. And I got to start my senior year because I had to take out loans, and I was like, wait, I have money in savings. Why do I have like $8,000 in savings and I took out loans the first year? And it turned out like we had for some reason been like, oh, it'll be better if you have a cushion in case anything happens, which I get that.
That makes sense, but
kind of. But what ended up happening is like I wasn't on financial aid, so I was on a 6.8% interest. That started as soon as I got the loan.
Oh,
most people don't realize it's mostly not deferred. Yeah. It accrues while you're in the school.
Yeah. So, but it was funny. Like my last, it was because it was a double whammy. It just like pissed me off. So I had for the first 3 years, like that was the standard rate was 6.8%. my senior year, the year that I didn't have to take out loans, because I was like, well, I'm going to use this savings money because that's
Yeah.
interest free, essentially.
Yeah.
That was the year when Obama had the switch over to everything being like 2.4 or 4.6 or something like that. Like, I was like, oh, it's
Son of a
dumb.
gun.
So
Yeah.
How lucky for those other students. I love them.
There's an interesting like period between when Nick and I went to college and when you went to college that the interest rates were like, you know, freewheeling, and they were up into like the 6 or 7%. Before we went to college in like the 2005-4 range, you could get loans for like 2 or 3%. So like people were getting this fantastic deal where they still carry the loans. There are something like 20% of school loan holders are actually above the age of 50.
I saw that. That's crazy.
It's an absurd amount of money. And like they keep that because either they're paid for their kids or their loans just aren't worthwhile to pay off because you can get more money in the stock market.
That's so out of my league.
Yeah.
If I had the money to pay my bills, and then I was like, on top of that, I won't because I can invest it. My goodness.
I mean, that's essentially though why people like take out a mortgage, but then, you know,
don't pay it off early. Yeah. So it's like the I think they call it like a debt waterfall. Like if you have multiple credit cards that have high interest rates and that like the interest rates drop off, you want to pay off the highest interest rate first.
Right. Well, that's isn't that called the snowball too?
Like you could snowball if you want to.
I mean, that's what you got to do to pay off the loans. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. Listen, just need to pay off my debt, man. I got to spit it back into your mouth. I hope our dictionary isn't open on everybody's desktop right now.
Yeah, live at work.
That's what we should call the campaign to get rid of the student debt of like, you know what? Fuck you, Sallie Mae. Have it back.
Fuck those snowballs.
Did you know Sallie Mae got sued and that's why they divided or whatever? Washington state government and the federal government sued them because their practices were what's the word for deceiving, and malicious? They would take the shortest route to not alert people that their stuff was due and then call them delinquent and then collect extra money on it and stuff. They were also the originals to selling your phone number out to telemarketers, which wasn't legal at the time. Oh, they got sued up their butthole, but that doesn't affect, like they didn't give the money to anybody. I think they just got in trouble. Slap them on the wrist. And then they sold off the student loan portion of their thing to, are they Navient?
They are. Yeah, because mine
they are.
They switched over halfway through, and I was like, now I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, it's like, who collecting my money? How much did I pay? Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm always like, what? Take it. Go ahead, please take it.
Yeah, I always love the security questions on there of like, you know, we have to make sure it's you. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Oh my god, my favorite joke. I'm always like, please, open door policy. You want to pay for it? Go for it.
Yeah, don't care. I need drug money.
So we didn't talk about the different types of loans.
This guy did some research.
So there's, I guess you can go and get a full scholarship.
Federal.
And that's one way of saving money, like grant money. That might not be available to people.
Not having to pay. That's one way of saving money.
It's a key. Yeah, some people game the system by not being us. I'm not going to say the commonality between all of us. So there's also federal loans, and they break down to like subsidized and unsubsidized. So like a subsidized loan is subsidized by the government. The government actually takes care of the interest while you're going to school. So those loans don't accrue while you're going to school. So an unsubsidized one will.
This is what interests me. So the government is paying off the interest while you're in school?
I don't know if it's like...
Or the government just has a deal with them where they're like, we're not charging them.
The easiest way to describe it is that they pay the interest.
It's interesting you say that, just because the only research I did that brought me to here is that there's 9 companies that bid to be able to hold student loans. Did you know this?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's not just anyone can have student loans. There are 9 companies. They all bid for this. They all sucked off politicians, sucked off somebody in government, and sucked off somebody else's butthole. Anyway, there are 9 companies. I'm going to name them. They're all good people. Anyway, they probably sucked off a lot of people on the way there. Cornerstone, PHEAA, Granite State, Great Lakes, HESC, Ed Financial, MOHELA, Navient, Nelnet, and OSLA Servicing. Servicing buttholes around you. Ooh.
Oh.
Anyway, they're great folks. Everyone who works there, if they all suddenly got some kind of weird disease, we'd feel terrible.
Awful indeed.
We would. Awful. But it strikes me as weird that you can bid for it and then get to collect money off of people who are 17 who are signing up for $60,000 and don't really know what they're getting into. I guess that's capitalism, baby.
I don't know. That kind of brings up the question too of like when do you have financial freedom? When are we deciding that people can make these decisions?
If it's a federal loan, it's before you come of age. You can get a federal loan for schooling before you're 18.
When you're 17 or 16?
Yeah, which is bizarre, right? Because even in high school, they don't teach you finance. They don't teach you the stuff that's going to cost you the most money for the first
not at all
10 or 20 or 30 years of your life.
No. No, and like they don't. I went into the financial office at one point because I think something was wrong with my password or something, and they were basically like, which form do you need? And I was like, I don't know.
I don't fucking know.
I'm here because you should know.
Like they didn't know anything more about my. It was like like I've got loans. They're like, yeah, you got to deal with that through. It was Sallie Mae at the time. I was like, so what are you doing?
Like we like money. We like money. Just send checks.
Well, they're just workers. Funny. They just literally get paid the minimum wage to just answer question X, Y, and Z. They don't really know. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you the biggest, one of the big issues is that costs of education are going through the roof, right? Like rent and cost of education going crazy.
Right through the roof.
Yep.
Do you have any rates on that?
I don't have.
I do.
I should look those up. Do you have rates?
Somebody said it was between like an 8% gain, like over inflation, and like at certain points it was like a 26% gain. So every 2 or 3 years, I'll say 3 to 4 years just to cover my ass, that like the amount of money would double. So like the cost of education compared to like the people who went 10 years before us or 20 years before us, it's like they could have worked a part-time job and paid for college while they were going to college. For us, it's like you have to have like some sort of magical job that pays you in the off hours that will cover 40. Wait, what? Let me get the averages here because I think the average was like 26,000 for like public university.
Yeah, it was actually 25.5. 25.5.
And the private one was like 30. What? 32 or 3?
I didn't have the private number. I had private. That's good.
So like that amount of money a year is impossible to earn, in my opinion, unless you get like a fantastic job. Or your daddy has a business.
Exactly.
We'll cover you.
Or your daddy. That's like a lot of things here. Is like people have daddies.
Yeah, if you have
daddy can mean many things. If someone wants to be my daddy, I have an application down here. But speaking of applications, did you know the government has been pushing through this student loan forgiveness stuff? It's showing up everywhere. Student loan forgiveness is happening as we speak. Everyone's student loans are being forgiven. In fact, civil servant student loan forgiveness, they just put in applications last year. If you're a civil servant, you have outstanding student loans, I'm twisting my tongue here, they will forgive you. They received 49,663 applicants last year. They approved 423.
That's fantastic.
To be forgiven.
Do you know why?
Is that less than 1%?
It is 1%.
Oh my God, that's less than 1%. Well, some of them said the applications weren't filled out properly. Some of them didn't pan out. Some of them were. Did you have a reason?
I have this exact reason. I was listening to somebody.
Oh, please do. Please do.
And they said that this is a new thing. So, like, if you were to apply, you needed like 10 years of experience showing that you were a public servant. And since the program didn't exist 10 years ago, there's no way that you could know what to do in order to like achieve what they were asking. So, like, this form that you fill out it didn't exist. So like he was saying that this is the first year that people could have possibly claimed it and that no one knew what the hell was going on.
So, awesome.
Fantastic program.
When a plan comes together.
So I think that was like ICR, which was income conditional. No, it doesn't sound right. It was like based on what your job was. So you can do like public servant. You can do things that are for nonprofits in order to say that my loan should be forgiven, should be wiped off the record because I did something noble or honorable or whatever you want to call it.
Weird. The
That
do you
only
know the
covers
default rate right now?
that only covers federal loans, though, as Nick and I found out today. Private loans do not count under that.
Yeah, Dan was like, you could probably
you can just wave it away. You know, it's
thing. And I was like,
forgive it. Yeah, it's gone. No worries.
No one's being forgiven. It's just more bullshit so that they can appease the masses. Like, yeah, we're forgiving them. We're forgiving them. Just keep paying. Something interesting for y'all is that they're blaming millennials, but it's just everyone coming out of college now who's starting to pay their loans. The default rate right now for people who haven't paid in 90 plus days their student loans is 11.4%. It's a pretty high number, I thought.
Yeah.
Like they're just not paying. They're like, F it.
So that's one thing that you can't.
My friend, so I didn't know my buddy in my new work. He goes, I didn't even know he went to college. He's like, man, they started asking about me. And I was like, who? And he's like, student loan people called my work. Now they're garnishing my wages. And I was like,
oh, man.
They're getting you. But ironically enough, they can only take up to 10% of his gross, I think.
Yeah, that's called, what the hell is IBR? It's like income-based repayment. Sure. So like you can make it so that if it is a federal loan that you only have to pay 10%. So there are tricks around like navigating it. And I think Susanna's trying to figure out how to dissolve her debt right now.
She's thinking about it.
Yeah. No, I was just, one of the biggest reasons that I didn't realize how big of an issue this was. I was looking for some stats. That
we do it before the episode. I didn't know if you're.
I do it. I mean, you're
during. That's fine.
3 minutes before the episode started, we were like, "What's the episode on?" And I was like, "I was looking at loans, but okay."
It's okay.
But no, the biggest change, because people look at it and they're like, "Well, why is it becoming more expensive?" Is it just inflation? And like you were saying, it's not at all tied to inflation. It's tied to how many administrators we're adding into the university systems. So you look at professorships, faculty, relative to how they used to be. It used to be that faculty made up like full-time faculty were the majority of a university system. And now there's a lot more part-time faculty and a ton more administrators. And there's a couple things with that. And there was a really interesting podcast recently on Hidden Brain that was just called Useless Jobs. And they're talking about these positions that basically higher up people in universities would come in, and as part of their package they would get an assistant. And so, if you got a higher level job, you get 2 assistants. And then they kind of had to come up with jobs for these people. And then once there were jobs for these people, they had to find replacements for those people when they left. So you suddenly have people who are recording meeting minutes and then meeting about the meeting minutes to try to understand how to lower the meeting minute number per output. And universities all around the country are trying to cut down on costs by getting rid of faculty, because per person they do have the higher paycheck in general, right? A faculty member is going to be making $80,000-$90,000 to start out with.
Not to mention free tuition for her nephew, her grandson, her relative, her godson, her next door neighbor's kid who they put in her name. Someone also has to pick up the slack of those free tuitions, right?
So I did a little look at like Harvard. Oh. So like Harvard's tuition is $45,000, and
that's it. I should have went there.
Yeah, it might have saved you some money. So they have an endowment. So like most of the colleges have an endowment. Harvard is the largest. Mm-hmm. They have $38 billion invested so that they could reap the interest, so that covers operating costs. Like operating costs at Harvard are $4.7 billion per year. It's a ridiculous amount. And the point I'm making here is that tuition for bachelor's and master's degrees for all of those people paying to actually go to that school is only like 17% of what makes up that operating cost. It's like a really small fraction. It's strange, and I don't I don't really comprehend how it could be $4.7 billion to run a school for a year.
This is going to sound weird. I live with someone who's a college
Drop.
like administrative person who hires people.
I don't know what that means.
Like she's I didn't want to give her position away totally, but
she accepts people or rejects people. She's a rejector.
Yeah.
She's rejected you multiple times.
Yes.
Okay.
But
cash advances.
She's always talking about the school and the board and the president and everything. And when she talks about her work, it very, very, very much bores me a little bit. Sounds like just another business that's selling shoes or something, and this is like the higher up in the offices and everything. And also that they argue about the stupidest stuff, and they had IT problems, and they're switching over to a new infrastructure, and they have to hire this guy, and there's another thing, and then there's parking issues over in 3rd Street, and now we have to have all the students park over here on 3rd. And I'm like, nothing that you talk about sounds like it's student-based at all. It just sounds like business stuff, boring business stuff. To the point where they're like, we're thinking of hiring a new photographer who does all our brochures. And I'm like, who cares? But what you kind of mentioned is that all these costs are more...
It's like running a small city.
Or it's more... Yeah, it's running a small city is what it is. And the cost for hiring janitors and groundskeepers and photographers and someone who does the CAD department, someone who mails these stupid acceptance letters that you get, and someone who designs the stupid acceptance letters you get, and someone who designs the stuff inside the building, and who decides what gets written on their shirts and what their new slogan is going to be next year. And they meet 14 times to decide this. And I hear it and I'm like, this is the stupidest thing in the world. But that's probably part of the cost, I assume. I don't know where I was going with that, but it tied into what you guys said, and it's really mine's more firsthand. You guys Googled it. Mine's firsthand, so
yeah.
Not that I'm competing. I'm just saying
anecdotal evidence. Eat it. Yeah, that was part of like the running of a small city. Like they allowed colleges to be small cities, which is kind of strange.
They do. They have different laws, actually. They have their own police force, a lot of them. Like mine did. We have the University of Delaware cops versus Newark cops. They were different forces. There were different rules. There were different. Yeah, that's bizarre when you think about it.
Have you ever heard of like the discount tuition rate?
Mm-mm.
You know what that Hold means? On. Do you know about tuition resetting?
I don't know what that is either.
Okay. So I heard this from someone in college. I know. Okay. They do something called every few years, a college will start advertising this and start talking about it and sending commercials and stuff about this. But they reset the tuition, meaning they reset it back a couple years. When they do this, they actually reset the number back a little bit, and then they have to cut off who they give scholarships to, some of the scholarship funding, and then they do something else real shady. And I was like, is that legal? And they're like, yeah, it's like business. It's like working at Kohl's. They're like, hey, we got a new rack. We're rolling back prices when everything's marked up 80%, and then they mark it down 30%. Like, I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense.
So this is exactly what I was going to talk about, actually.
Okay, go ahead. Anecdotal.
So the discount tuition is like the tuition that they say, like, you know, half off. Like this is a great deal. Like they inflate the rate that they give people. They say like my school costs $45,000, but we'll give you a scholarship for $10,000. But like little do people know that like the discount rate for colleges, I think the average is like 50% of people get a scholarship. So it's like the actual normal rate of a college is probably like $35,000 instead of $45,000.
Right.
So part of that is like it's also a bullshit tactic because people get suckered into thinking that they saved money by getting a scholarship, and then when you show up and half the people get a scholarship based on their academics, when they get in a class that is tested and adjusted to the curve, so like pitting you against your classmates, you like the odds of shaking out the people who are lower than like half the average, you essentially get to eliminate half your scholarships because you're curve adjusting. You half your population, half those people lose the scholarship and then end up paying the full amount. So that's a trickery. Yeah. Trickery.
Trickery.
So it's a
Sabotage.
yeah.
Well, and it's
Someone was
also on
talking
the
about
other
that.
side is like, when you go to J. Crew or whatever, and they have the word sale painted on the window, right?
You
It's like,
know.
that's not a sale. That's not how sales work. But it's, it's basic human psychology
Hmm.
that, you know, they've done plenty of stuff where you don't want to buy. There's a place in town that does this. I'm like, do people really not realize this? But they'll say like buy 6 biscuits for this price, buy 12 biscuits for this price, and it's like the same price, but they just
I
say
used,
that
I used
you
to
can.
do it.
12. Do you get you get more quantity?
Yeah,
Making me
it
hungry.
just it's just
I did.
bizarre. But yeah, if you see something it's half off, or if you get someone who says, this college usually costs $45,000, and we're going to give you 10, that actually feels a lot better
I made
than.
$10,000.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And also you're going to the school that costs $45,000, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's way better than the school that costs 7.
I'm really sorry.
He's got something to say about me. I know it.
No, this
No,
isn't about you.
it's
This is
not.
very generic. At my old job,
It's gonna be about me.
we had little bars of soap. Like we would sell soap, just little bars of soap, 30 cents, 30 cents a bar. And I wrote on the display, like we would put the soap out here.
Oh, initiative right here. Initiative.
30
Out of the
cents a
box.
bar, and then I wrote 3 for $1. And my dad was so mad at me. He eventually made me take it down. And I thought it was the funniest joke in the world. And every now and then someone would be like, "That's not a deal." And I'd be like, "You're getting 3." It just cracked me up on the inside. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
But that's what sales
Did
are.
people ever buy it though? They're like, oh,
No, I wouldn't have charged them $1 anyway. That's a deal right there. Hell yeah. Let's go.
So the whole scheme of doing this doesn't make sense to like try to put this on like a 17-year-old to try to figure it out. And it's kind of the biggest decision of their life, really, because they're trying to look for a major
Kinda
that
sort of is.
covers their future cost of living. And most people like
Journalism.
us, we
English.
didn't make the decisions based on how much money we would get or the return on investment. If you were to look at it as
ROI.
like
ROI,
Yeah.
folks. Mm-hmm.
so it's a tough
Roy.
Yeah, Roy. ROI.
Sorry.
No, that's all I had. No, it's a tough choice. I mean, I think it took until I actually had to pay it off for me to realize like how much I had wasted on like a college education kind of.
How long did it take you to pay yours off? And like, if you don't mind me asking, like, how much did your parents end up covering? Half? A third?
My college
90%?
is weird because we did 5 years and then we worked 1 year of that and it was split throughout the college. So I was making money, which is what I think my parents were getting pissed off at because I was making $16 an hour and
Nice.
so like $32K a year, but it was split up like semesters. So at the end of it, I had like maybe $8K in the bank, and then when I started my first job, they gave me a relocation bonus, which covered like the 12 or 10K that I had from student loans, and it was a small amount, so I just knocked it out right away. So I didn't really have the student
Because
loan
it's a high
pain.
interest rate.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you paid for it, but with whatever you had made. So it kind of,
Yeah.
you zero sum gamed it.
Yeah, I didn't leave with like $100,000 worth of debt, which I know some people who did, and then they had hard time
Right.
finding jobs while the interest accrued, and
Right.
paying it off is like brutal. It's ultra brutal.
Watch us. I got this one down pat. Susanna, because it's the opposite, my visual.
Yeah.
Did you accrue a large amount of money going for this PhD, et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
without giving
No.
us specific numbers if you don't want to?
No. No, I get paid.
Make
Damn.
money. Yeah, once you
Mhm.
get into the higher degrees, there it doesn't cost you anything.
You serious?
It
I should have just got a
depends. So,
PhD.
yeah,
Huh.
in humanities, a lot of times you pay, or if you're getting a master's, sometimes you pay. But if you're getting a PhD, and the reason for this, this actually makes sense because at first I was like, this can't be possible. It's because the majority of the money that comes into a school is not tuition. If it's only tuition, they'd be running at a loss. If they just took in tuition and then paid for the building cost associated with teaching students, they would operate at a loss, even with the crazy prices. The majority of money comes from endowments, from donations, But most big R01 universities, they are coming from research money. And so the people doing the research, the people who provide the data to get the
People matter.
grants are us. So and
It's
that's sort of the
we.
funny thing is that
Sorry, I'm
if
an English
grad
major.
students stopped going, if grad students stopped doing anything, and that's what happened actually at the University of North Carolina this last semester. With we had this whole thing with Silent Sam. I don't know if you guys heard anything about it, but
Hmm.
there was this. Yeah, I think I annoyed the shit out of
Quiet
you
protest?
about it.
No, no.
Yeah, and so yeah, grad students, forever nobody had listened to us, and somebody was like, "Okay, it's near the end of the semester. This is why you're doing it this time because you don't think students will care. Um, so we're not going to turn in grades." And it became very clear how much power was actually in the grad students that aren't normally treated very well, given their expertise, given what few benefits we have and what we are going towards. Um, but it became very obvious how essential these lower pieces are. So yeah, I am paid. My tuition is paid for, and yeah, so I get paid before taxes. I think it's 32 or 33, which is it for me. It's very livable. For me, it's comfortable. But I think my issue is that all of these schools keep preaching this idea of diversity. They keep preaching this idea of we want to have first gen students. We want to have mixed background. We want to have multi-race. We want to have,
We want to put it on our
you know,
pamphlet. Sell that.
yeah, we want to put it on a pamphlet. And then the
Yeah.
truth is that they're not supporting it. There's a huge difference between asking for integration, which is bringing in people and saying, yeah, you have a family. Yeah, you're mid 30s and you've got a family, but we want to support you.
This is
That's
me. She's talking about
integration.
me.
Yeah. Versus most of the time we're just asking for assimilation. We're saying, it's nice that you're first gen. We brought you in here. We gave you a discount. Now we're not going to give you any resources and you have no idea what you're doing. Or you've got a bunch of really racist schools that are like, oh, we got to fix our optics. Let's bring in some people of color. And then they don't have any programs to support them.
Like they just bring in 3 students and then take pictures of them. They don't have like an actual program or anything to reach out to anyone else. It's just those 3. We're good.
Exactly. So for grad school, they're really big about it. They're really like, we're inclusive. We like a bunch of different ideas. And then pretty much the only people who can afford to get through grad school without, really digging themselves a hole is somebody like me, that I'm comfortable. I have a safety net. I don't have a family or outstanding tons of loans.
Did your parents help pay for other parts of college entirely? Some of it? I'm just curious because
Yeah.
I maybe I missed that.
So
They covered half, right?
they covered half. And
Okay,
so that
that's
was
cool.
everything. Um,
Housing and all that, whatever.
yeah, it didn't include like food and clothes and stuff like that, but it was
Beer?
basically room, like it was housing and tuition.
Which you
That
said
Okay.
was
was like 7K, right? So they paid half of 7K
Well,
for a semester.
Mhm.
So that was like 4 years times what? Two
it
times.
changes every year,
Yeah, yeah.
trust me.
So what did you end
I
up
mean, even my
having
school.
at the end
Um,
as a loan? And do
so
you still have it?
right. So again, I think I was really fortunate. And I'm also like I'm a really goal oriented person. And so the thing that got me through a lot of stuff was this online site called CNN Money Calculator,
Mhm.
and it's or you like type that in and it'll show you like your student loan thing. It's really fun. There's like 3 things you fill in, which
Really
is
fun.
I
You
thought it
said
was really fun.
change
No,
the
mine will not
dials.
be fun. I'm looking at my stuff right now. But anyway,
Yeah, look at how much you
keep going.
owe.
Keep going. Keep going.
No, it was fun because you would put in, you'd say, I've got $10,000 outstanding. I've got this interest rate. What would happen if I paid off $200 a month? And it
Uh,
calculates how much you pay overall and how long it takes you to pay it off. And then you're like, okay, well, what if I didn't eat out twice? What
it
if I
does
paid
that
off
kind of math.
250 a month? Suddenly you're like, holy shit. It used to be 11 years and now it's 7. How is that possible? And so I was really motivated to pay stuff off. So I left with about right around 15,000. Not bad at all. Because I had worked, I'd started babysitting when I was like 12. My parents were always really big
Babysitting.
about,
Yeah, I'll cover your whole college.
Yeah, I mean, I
If you
babysat,
babysit
I
the
was
right
a
kids.
waitress at Applebee's, so
Were
yeah.
you Applebee's? Yo, you ring and bring some dish. You know what I'm saying? Half price apps.
Oh yeah, yeah, I got that
Word.
2 for 20. Um,
I,
I get flat
listen,
back.
my favorite people are anyone who's been a server.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, aside.
No, I agree. I think everyone should work in a service industry
Mhm.
at some point in their life. Whether
Yeah.
that's, I could never work retail. I would murder someone. I would straight.
Oh. hmm I agree. I agree.
So
Yeah, I can't wait to
yeah,
murder
so I left
somebody.
with about 15,000, and then I was really fortunate because well, I moved down here with my partner at the time, and he and I split things. And with that, with the two income households, and
hmm
North Carolina is cheap. That's part of why I chose North Carolina versus I was looking at Boston and Ithaca, New York, and San Francisco, and you get paid an extra $2,000.
And
That's
the
the
cost of
competitive
living is like
rate.
twice as much.
Oh yeah,
Right.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, and
So.
and also like you don't, everything is so much harder.
Oh, and
So
the sports team in Boston are all racist. So right, I agree with
Those
you.
shitty sports teams,
Sorry, I'm just
especially the
throwing
ice
some
hockey.
shade.
Yeah.
I apologize. Yeah.
it's like what? Yes, that's why I went to North Carolina. Actually, it was funny. The year that I came to North Carolina was the year that they got in trouble for all those paper classes of all the like students. Oh, I don't know if you guys heard about this.
Oh,
So,
keep going. Keep going.
yeah, all the athletes were taking these classes that were uh like their advisors would push them into it, and the class was basically like for a midterm and the final, you would just turn in a piece of paper with your name on it.
Oh,
Sign
that's
here for
awesome.
an A.
That's so good. Did anyone misspell their name? Please, please
I'm
give me
sure
like
they
a
did. I'm
C.
sure they did. Well, and the thing was, it all came out. It all came out because it's fucking college students, so they talk about it to their
Of course.
friends. Like it's not like anyone
Mhm.
was like whistleblowing. Actually, it was the fact that random ass people were ending up in this class. Um,
Oh,
and so
jeez.
the problem was actually that they realized they couldn't just give this to random ass people. So they had these classes now that like this dude would show up, turn in a paper, get an A or at least a B, and the other person would be out there working, and they're like, "Why do I have a C on this class? Like I've been working my ass because I had to like balance."
Yeah.
Randomize the scores. Man.
It was so bad. It was so bad. But
So that screws their athletes though, because then they're uneducated when they get that injury and they don't have anything to rely on, which they care
yeah,
about
it was
so
Did they
deeply.
care at the time? Does the college
No.
care at the time?
I don't.
no. I think some of the issues were like the students who, the fear was like it was technically you should have put them on academic probation. And so for those students that had been there for a year and it was their college coach who was telling them to take these classes, they're a sophomore, and the reason they're able to go there is for scholarship, right? Like most of the people are not able to pay for that on their own,
Mhm.
and they're on an academic probation because their coach told them to do something. And it's just like, ugh, it was so gross. Like
Yeah, it's like college
I feel like
football and
universities have their
NCAA.
own
Like
issues.
NCAA
I mean,
makes like
I see
$1
it the
billion
other
a
way
year.
too, though, where someone who's an athlete he's just dumb as hell, but he's really good at sports. Like
He's athletically smart. He's a genius
he's athletically
athletically.
smart. He's a genius athletically. Like he or she might not be able to do any classes, might never be able to do classes, but is so gifted at the sport. Like I wouldn't want to keep them away from the sport either. I wouldn't be like, you're not allowed to play sports because you're not smart enough. Like that seems weird too. On one hand,
Um,
isn't that like some sort of classism where it's like we only let people smart enough play this
Brain
sport?
type of people. We want brains
brain.
Right.
here.
Well, I mean, I think it was like Clemson was one of the
Brains.
places that really started cracking down on
They just suspended 4 players, but I think it was for steroids. Sorry.
probably. But like I think
Something
it was a while
different.
ago. I think it was a couple years ago when all this was happening that more universities started being like, okay, no, we really, we can't bring people in for athletics if they really can't even get close
Well,
to
right, then you wouldn't bring them in the first place. That would make sense.
yeah.
Hmm.
No, I think Dan, what you were going to talk about is how much the NCAA makes, and really why do we bring these people into college if they shouldn't be at college?
That's
Is
like,
it for their benefit?
yeah, they make 1.1 billion, and the strange thing in Texas is that the high school football coaches, they make more than all of the teachers. Like, as a high school coach down here, you could make over 100 grand. And it's like,
Hell
does that
yeah.
make any sense whatsoever? Like, what priority are we putting on students to say, oh, this teacher makes a half of what the football coach makes? It's like, is it really that
There's
important?
there's no journalism quote that I learned in college you guys should adhere to. It's called "Follow the Money." That's it.
Like a little
It was just follow
Dick
the money.
Tracy kind of sleuth.
No, just I had a teacher. He actually passed away last year, John Ross. If anyone had him, they'd remember him. He had a Texas accent, not fake. A big white beard, and he was one of the big journalism profs at University of Delaware. He everyone had him if you went to any kind of English journalism classes. But he was always like, "I'll tell you what it is. Follow the money." And I'd be like, "Why are you saying this? You sound like follow your nose, like the Fruit Loops guy." He'd be like, "Follow the money." I'm like, this is the stupidest thing. Now every time I'm like, there's a story, I'm like, follow the money, and it ends up being right. I mean, that's why they push these guys through. Follow the money because they can make the most money off of them. Any question you have, just essentially follow the money.
So if you're going to follow the money and you're going to college, do you guys know what your starting salary would be on average?
I think
for your major,
$21,000 a year.
Not your actual.
Oh Jesus! You're
hypothetically, hypothetically,
24?
Hypothetically, yep.
What if I'd stayed at bio?
No, as an English major, it's actually like 52. So like, I don't know how. That's from I think payscale.com. Yeah. Mine.
I'm gonna talk to some.
Starting like out of college,
yeah,
or just like in general.
Yeah, I think that was the national average for English majors.
I'm in the. Never mind. But I'm bringing the
excluding
average down
Philadelphia, of course. Yeah.
That's it.
Everyone except you guys. And like, so my starting salary was lower than the national average based on pay scale. It was like 72, which seems reasonable for an engineer. It's pretty good. For a microbiologist PhD student, I looked that up too. It's 88. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be rolling in cash.
Eventually. Yeah. I mean, the issue, right? The problem with that, well, actually, that's really funny because that has to be the biggest standard deviation ever. Because
they steal your youth.
Have two options. Yeah, you either
research.
Well, yeah, right. The majority of people used to go into a postdoc next, and a postdoc is like $50,000. Or if you've managed to go directly into industry, it's like $110,000. It's really like you make half as much money with the same degree doing the same job. If you have this promise of maybe being a professor.
Sorry.
So, yeah, but I want to go into science education and outreach. So who the hell knows what I'm? I don't know if that's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, people do what they think is comfortable. Like I was at the same job for 10 years because I felt like it was the right thing to do. I guess I had some loyalty there. So like being in college and spending most of your time as a student, it seems like you would progress and be comfortable in that arena, and you would be like continuous, like it'd be a continuous thing that you would do. Mm-hmm. So I can understand people taking less money to be comfortable, but not exploring what's out there. It hurts. And I can see the hurt on Nick's face right now as he's realizing.
No, not at all.
Would you go back and change it, Nick?
No, not at all. This is easy.
Would you take out more loan debt to go to school again?
Sure, I don't care. Listen, everything I've done has shaped me to this point. Do you know that me going to this school, the only school I didn't get a scholarship to, the only school that whatever, and the only major and the people I hung out with, my sister dated a guy on my hockey team, and then eventually they got married and they have 3 kids. Like if it wasn't for me, they probably would never meet. And like I love my nephews and my brother-in-law.
You're a cameo in a rom-com. You're the guy who made the connection and then doesn't show up until they
the lead role.
are.
No, I was the lead role.
Given the speech at the end.
Yeah, the lead role.
You're your
Like,
sister, is what you're saying.
no,
That'd be
I
the most
married.
depressing rom-com ever. Please don't make that.
Yeah, that's weird.
And it all turned out.
I don't know how to explain it. It's weird because
so you can't look at the. So you're leaning on like the serendipity of life, and then like the joy.
100%. Because honestly, what else is there? I mean, what we're talking about today is all money, and it's literally probably the most important thing in our lives, but it isn't. And this sounds like I'm talking out my ass a little bit, but I literally just saw one of my favorite people for the first time in like 6 months. He's about 65. He's African American. He was raised in the ghetto. He works at a church now. He pulled a gun on his boss one time, who was a trash truck. He was a trash truck guy, and his boss threw him under the bus. Anyway, he was put in jail for 2 years. Oh, literally. He went to a bar and pulled a gun on his boss. And I was like, why are you telling me this? He's like, I showed that son of a bitch what was for. And I was like, what did you do that for? He's like, he was giving everyone's overtime but me. And they're like, he would do this. And like, I was like, you're crazy, dude. Anyway, he learned his lesson. He was young then. His name's Richard. He's one of my favorite people. He got mouth cancer 3 years ago. He's really hard to understand now because like he lost half his jaw, but they controlled the cancer and everything. And I haven't seen him for 4 months, 6 months. And every time I do that with one of my customer friends or whatever, like I feel like they could die. Like I have customers and friends who die because I don't see them for 6 months, 5 months. They're older. They have issues. This guy had mouth cancer. I just saw him today. I was giving him daps. I was doing on the back. We were high-fiving. We were talking about some old stuff. And then we were talking about the Eagles for like 15 minutes. And I was so happy when I left him. I was like, yo, my man Richard still got it. He even made fun of my coworker who replaced me. He was like, that guy's fucking, I hate him. And like, I was like, yeah, I do too. But like, I've never been happier to see Richard. Richard, I just found out today, his birthday's 2 days before mine. My birthday's next week.
Oh.
And I was like, yo, your birthday's coming up? He's like, yeah, man, my birthday's next week. We're going to AC. I was like, yo, my birthday's next week too. And stuff like that makes me realize that my man Richard's never going to make more than the minimum wage in his life. Working his job, like I won't. And there's people like that I come across that are my favorite people. I forget where I was going with the whole thing. I don't know.
You're saying like it's not about money.
It isn't in a way. I mean,
friendship,
it is. Oh, it
love.
is. But it's the people you come across, like the personalities, the people you touch. And this sounds so stupid because I don't want to end an episode and be like, this is all the money problems of America. but everyone's happy. But I don't know. Like for that reason alone, I don't care that I've been in debt forever. Here are my numbers. Perfect segue. Okay,
hit it.
So I pay $588 a month in student repayment. That's not quite a
That's a car payment.
It's a car payment plus groceries plus something else. I've been paying it since I was 21. I have, let's see, Navient bought some of my loans and Nelnet. So I have two companies I still owe loans to. Navient, I owe $16,300 still. One of my loans is at 5.5, 8.5, 5.5. My estimated time of payoff for Navient is 12/17, 2022.
Pretty close. Okay.
So I'm getting there. Okay. The other company was Nelnet.
Is it smaller or larger?
It's larger
Hard
overall.
to tell.
It's 19,381 left. This is left. I've been paying for over 10 years. So it's only 4%, and I will be finished paid off. And I had it on here.
2024-ish? 5-ish?
Yeah, I think it was 2022-ish. So I will be like 40. Who knows?
So this is leaning into
that depresses you.
This is leaning into like the mathematical construct of like deciding like the perfect path in life, if you could like just think
Right.
financially.
Oh, that was literally the opposite of the perfect path I chose. Oh,
Yeah.
I 100% would tell no one to take my path, but I would never return my path, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
so one of the things that keeps coming up in a whole bunch of places is this idea of universal, like, basic living income, right? This idea
Mhm.
that
UBI.
we as a society have enough resources and money to make sure that everyone can live as a human.
Mhm.
That's one thing. But part of it that comes up is education. You know, if we have the means, how do we feel about everyone getting free college? What about that idea that's like, okay, places like Europe,
You're a
you make it.
socialist?
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
down.
just wondering what you guys think about it.
I'm 100% down with it. I would pay everyone the goddamn same. I know that sounds because I make less than everyone, so I mean, it makes sense. I would say that, but
I do like
again, there
social
are some people
systems,
who make.
social security and stuff like that. That should cover people that have like can't go to college, can't do that. Like they're not going to be up to snuff. So I do agree that there should be some form of coverage for people when they like can't make it.
Dan, you're gonna get banned from a lot of those websites you do
Yeah.
your forums on. Oh boy, they better not hear you're a socialist.
I don't know where the motivation comes from though, because a lot of people, I'm gonna spin it the other way, is that there's a lot of people that are like ultra motivated to game the system and like just rock it. Like they research a ton, they figure out the best path, and they do it. But they're also kind of robotic in the way that they do it. Like there was this one guy that went to college. I think he was on like a GI Bill, so it covered like any class that he took, and then he would go to college and then take classes from other colleges online. So in the first year, he like completed like 3 years of college. So he would just like he massively gamed the system so that he could just like quickly get out of college, and then he got like 3 or 4 degrees when he was done, so he could just pick whatever job he wanted. So it's like those type of people like breaking the system, like their motivation is exactly that, like skipping over the parts that are bullshit and then tying it together and just like wrapping it in a bow to make their life that much better.
Was he good at his job? Does anyone know?
I don't know.
It's so weird. It's the weirdest thing, but what I find college to be, and I tell this to the person I live with who's a college administrator all the time, is that I mean, college doesn't make you necessarily good at your job at all.
People say that it makes you more well-rounded. I would say that like it expands your like your networking skills. Like the people you run into are probably more influential if they're from a college, any
But I
college.
mean, being away from your parents, learning to live
More
on your
independent.
own, kind of letting loose, independence. Those are the reasons I
Punctuality.
chose a college, and that's not the best reason to pick it. But
You could game it too.
like,
Like take AP
Yeah,
classes.
like I only see it as like well-rounded in terms of the opposite. Like it's always told as like, oh, you fill out into these spaces, and I think it's actually like you get
to
weird
pick your
down your like weird edges of like, whoa, you can't deal with working in groups. Well, that's too fucking bad. Or like, oh, your mom wakes you up for class. That's a bummer. It's going to be really hard for you. So all of these edges that make you not fit into society, they get like rounded down.
So you become a round peg. And you're just tapped into that little round hole.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think, yeah. I mean, I think you have to look at these, in my opinion, you look at these student loans, and it's just very clear that we have allowed huge corporations and people with giant money to just
buy our government,
the future of the country, you know, and like
I got 9 companies, you butthole suckers.
Yep. And it's just a question of like, okay, what is our mission as a country? Is it, you know, total free market that we want everyone to be able to pursue whatever they want, which is a nice idea if we all started at the same point, but
We don't.
No,
not at all.
And it's just like, well, this is a power scheme, and that separation between the haves and the have-nots keeps getting bigger, even though we have the resources to really make the world better, and we have the resources to like. There's so much digital education out there. We could make college a lot cheaper and just as effective, but people would lose their jobs, and that's scary because we don't have.
If you could make
to take care of it.
make online
Do you know what everyone
learning
does
accredited
in IT? Do you know everyone does in IT? No.
They play video
get a degree
games.
in IT? No. Even better. When they run into a problem, we got an error message on the server. Can you guys fix this? They Google it. Every single one of them. There's not one person who doesn't. They're like, yeah, hold on, we'll work on it. And they just Google it, and then they figure it out, and then they figure it out. I mean,
we're becoming a
to
hive
a degree.
mind.
But
well, I mean, that's, to be fair, that's like most of my job too.
but
everybody.
But what I'm getting at is it's kind of everyone's job.
Mm.
You don't go to college, go for accounting. Let's say I want to be an accountant. And then you get a degree, and then you apply for a job at H.H. Briggs. Everyone knows who H.H. Briggs is, right?
They're my favorite.
I made them up. It just sounds like a famous
I was like,
corporation.
Not a place, but that's fine.
So no matter who you are, it could be me who has a fake resume. It could be someone who had a bio major resume. It could be someone English major resume. Disgusting. If H.H. Briggs hires you and they bring you in on the first day, guess what they do? They train you and tell you what they want you to do. Right? Because they don't just say, here's your paperwork, just fill it out. I mean, you did accounting. Everyone has a system. Everyone has rules. Everyone has an order they do things, like a company. So what happens is most people can do most jobs. I mean, the degree is kind of bullshit. The degree helps you get there. The degree rounds you. It gives you familiarity with the product. But there's nothing to say that I couldn't get a job at any professorial. Did I say that right? I don't even know if that's
you going for tenure? Going for tenure?
I could go for tenure to fill in for someone, answer all the questions right.
I got your tenure. Don't
worry. They'd be like, this guy got it. And I'd be like, oh, by the way, it wasn't really me. And they'd be like, well, you can't have it. Like,
I feel if you faked a resume, you could get in anywhere.
Exactly. And I think I would be okay. And then eventually they tell you what to do anyway. It's not like I would be like, well, I'm going to change the way this company does taxes and change everything. Do you know what I mean?
I do think it's about experience. I think it's interesting because
100%.
The academic stuff, and I think about, the classes I've taken, what do I actually get out of it? And it's truly what I've gotten out of it is the ability to speed read. That is a huge skill that you don't get without experience. Right. The ability to write convincingly and accurately. That's some of those things that you can't just fake. Like, I agree that you can go in and spit out the facts, but the truth is that those are the facts that they actually do give you in college, right? Like, that's unfortunately the focus of high school and college in so many ways is to do these facts, where really you could even get experience in school that was, if you're doing accounting, it doesn't need to be memorizing laws. It could just be, okay, we're going to give you practice sets, and at some point these are going to be real sets of data. Like you were saying at the start, Nick, of, well, let's have the chemistry class actually do something. You don't. The problem with chemistry classes is they have you make cool things. If everyone just actually got to make a starting product that was going to be used in an actual chemistry lab, it'd be way fucking better. It'd be way better. So I just see these systems that are so in place. I mean, most of the way that we do education was set up in the very start of the 1900s and based on stuff that has been around since the 1800s. But before that, this didn't exist. This isn't how people learn. I really think that, with the digital age where students no longer have to get everything in one spot, you don't have to go to the University of Iowa, so you can get the best English and Spanish and microbiology. You can go to the one place that's like a trade school for microbiology, and then you can take those extra classes online, and hopefully you can focus on what you're going to be doing. I think the trade school model is awesome, and I wish that it expanded out past, technical assistance and things like that, because so many people don't want to be the CEO, the professor. They just want a good fucking job and not to be stuck with student loans until they're 55.
42, whatever. I'm not, what?
Sorry, that was a full rant. I don't know where that came from.
No, that was really good. That was heartfelt. That was real. And what it told me is that, listen, we can all do any job. We can all go to any college. We can all accrue any debt. We can all have any amount of money we don't make and do make. And everyone makes the same amount of money. We are a socialist podcast. Boom. Stamp it. Dan, can you say it? Say, I love socialism. Just say it. Can you put a little Russian flag in the corner? I don't care. Go for it. I just finished all my beef jerky. I'll share it with everyone. You all have my beef jerky.
Wow, that's expensive.
No, it was 2 for $10. I mentioned this earlier.
But
Everyone,
that's still expensive.
One for $4.50.
where'd you find that? Oh, you're doing my logic on me, huh? Why would I buy 2 for $10? It's 2 for $10. I let everyone else share it upstairs. I didn't just open this fresh for the episode. If I ate $5 worth
What's
of
with
beef
you
jerky,
eating? Stop eating.
I'm like,
he did this 2 episodes ago, and oh my gosh! And then he passed out live on camera.
Oh no, the drunk. I got too drunk for an episode. This only happened once, and it was 2 episodes ago. And because it took him an hour to figure out how to do.
So doesn't matter.
Well,
college.
This is a good way to wrap up the college section of like really, why do we all have student loans? I spent so much money on alcohol. And it's actually difficult to spend a lot of money on alcohol as a woman. I have no idea what would have happened if I was a dude in college. I would have had twice as much student loans.
We make other dudes pay for the alcohol that we are providing at parties. That's the trick.
That's good, because otherwise you got to do this weird, like women, like people are always like, oh, you get free drinks, and you're like, it's a trade-off. It's not free, like,
right? And why would you base the entire night on free drinks? You could get a free drink or two, but then like, when do the drinks come?
Free drinks is saying you don't want to have a drink, but it's a gamble, and it's sort of like every 15 times you do it, you're gonna have to have a weird altercation and hope your friend is there.
Good point. I didn't even think of that. The repercussions of getting a free drink, sometimes it's not worth it, probably.
No, almost never. No, so you have to do it's really interesting. So you can only stay at the bar for like another 30 minutes, because then otherwise they'll come get you and be like, no, another one, another drink.
It's creepy.
And at that point you kind of owe them or something.
Oh yeah, they'll follow you out of the bar, they'll follow you to the next bar.
They want their repayment plan.
You know what's really cool?
You from other guys trying to creep on you,
even though they're creeping. This is crazy. Now I'm guessing in my college days I was a creep. I was a this. I was a that. Yeah. But most of the stories I hear, I wasn't a creep, because like I never got girls. Like I was always like, I tried to buy them a drink, and they were always
not
like,
being creepy is never getting women.
Well, like I never pursued them like beyond like, hey, what's up? And then if they weren't like interested in me, I was always like, I hate you. Like myself, because I wouldn't ever pursue it further and be like, hey, I'll get you another drink. Like I didn't.
Oh, that was guys will come over and put it in your hand, and you're like, I didn't want this.
That's
and they're like,
weird.
Oh yeah, but you have to remember, right? These are bars where there are 100 people in there, and over the course of the night,
of a certain age
that are scary, right? Like so. That's the thing, is that a lot of dudes I tell them to, they're like, oh, I would never do that. I'm like, I know. But the problem is that for all of you, there's like, for every 500 of you, there's one horrible person.
Right. And you don't know who
wants me to get to the point of passing out. So I was happy to pay for as much alcohol as I could. And I truly think that was a very large chunk of the money.
I never went to the University of Delaware. I'm talking this much sales tax. Like, boom, zero.
And you know what? It might have saved me money. It might have saved money.
If you bought it warm, it was $1 cheaper. We would.
Where did you buy this from?
We would buy a warm 30 rack of Keystone Light for $9.99.
Keystone Light, huh?
Walk it back to my house.
Did you get the orange can?
I did get one orange can. I'm not even going to talk about that night. And we would open the 30 rack still warm and drink it and watch Flyers games. Oh my God. I miss that.
That's gross.
Like we didn't spend the extra $1 on a refrigerated case, but we also didn't wait to refrigerate the $1 less case.
Why don't you just like at least each take one and then put the rest in the fridge?
Because we would just sit it in the living room floor and just watch the game and start cracking them. There's something.
Spend that much money to spend
this
time.
This is going to sound weird because this rolls back into jobs. You make friends that way. There's something to be enjoyed about unenjoyable things. Like
sharing misery,
that warm 30 rack.
having so many student loans, you can't pay it off.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite 30 rack things that I think about. Like Keystone Light Warm watching a Flyers game when Ben Eager destroyed that guy Krog over the boards. I still remember that. Like the job I hate now, my favorite thing is complaining about everyone and being like, the customer. Did you hear when I had a customer here? Oh my God, let me tell you. You enjoy so much from the things you don't enjoy. Maybe everything evens out. And so that when you really enjoy something, that's all there is to it. But when you really hate something, there's like gossip you can do about it. There's like backstories you can do about it. There's like shared misery you can do about it. I don't know. I have no idea, folks. I enjoy this student loan debt. Ah, I love it. Sallie Mae. Hey, Sallie. Suck me.
I'm going to end it there.
Sorry.
I really want to end it there.
I know you want to end it there. Thanks for joining us, folks. We're the Unpanners. This is Susanna L Harris. You can check her at whatever her socials are.
Yeah.
It's down below there.
Below
She
me,
got it.
folks. Sallie Mae, below me.
You can do the little recap? Is that the recap?
Let's do a recap.
I think it was all student loans.
I think
Student
we
loans.
did talk about like every sexual. We talked about snowballing.
Yep, we covered
We
it.
talked about raw dogging, as in we're being raw dogged by the 9 companies mentioned here.
We talked about sucking assholes.
We talked about licking farts out butts.
Oh,
We
man.
talked about politicians. We talked about how Republican-backed Senate
We're the
initiative
Howard
for-
Stern of science.
Oh my God!
Man.
Auto deducting payments from your paycheck
Oh.
for student loans. Oh, man,
Garnishment? Is that what that's called? It's garnishment.
It
Loans
is
versus
garnishment
grants
of
versus
wages.
financial aid. Who knows the difference? I mean, is that free money or is it not? Right?
70% of students have. Did you just double joint your entire arms? Sorry, it freaked me out for a second. It looked really weird. 70% of graduates have debt. Oh my God! Everyone at home, listen to us. Don't pay it. Say
You'll
it with
be
me.
fine.
Don't pay it.
Bankruptcy
You'll be
does not
fine. The
dissolve
government
it, so you
can't
get
stop
rid of it.
everyone.
It's going to be there forever. Don't worry about it.
We
Just go
Unless
to
you're a
YouTube.
company, then it's fine.
Yeah, just hide
we
it
talked
overseas.
about. We
Could you
talked about.
send your company to college? Could you be like, I'm a company now. I'm gonna send.
LLC.
Everyone. LLC.
Dan
And then
LLC.
he'll bankruptcy and just be like, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
We dissolved that company.
yeah.
They no longer exist. He's right there.
He's got
No, no, no,
intellectual
that
property.
was-
Let's take it from him.
Mm-mm.
Oh, he's already got it. He's got it.
He's got it. He's got intellectual property. We got another one, intellectual property. Take him down. Take him down. We got a 447. We're going to take this motherfucker down. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. If you have anything you want to put in the comment section about my hair, it's because I didn't shampoo or gel it today. It's just natural.
Why is there a streak?
Wait, do you not know about that?
No, I wasn't there for that.
It's his feather. He did the feather craze and he kept it.
I have a birthmark, or
A feather.
I was touched by a ghost at age 13, and I have a gray spot. It's right here.
The
It grows when my hair grows, and
holy
it doesn't
spigot.
grow when my hair doesn't grow. I will go gray before I go bald. Thank you.
And before you're done with your student loans. So.
And before I'm done with my student loans. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us. Check our socials, donate to our Patreon. I'm not going to use it to pay my student loans. And thanks. Check everyone's socials. Check everyone's everything. Check everything. Check everything. Check everything. Check it. Check it. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.